We're live. Oh, greetings, people of YouTube land. This is Andy, aka Witchfire65, and I'm bringing you another review. This time is on the Transformers Continuum by IDW Publishing, the definitive chronology. Basically, in a nutshell, it covers all the events thus far in the IDW Transformers verse, and it's in chronological order. In other words, well, anyone who's read the IDW verse knows that when the IDW got their hands on Transformers, they started with Infiltration, and when I first heard of Infiltration, I thought, okay, but then I finally let in and actually decided I was hooked since then on it, and I've pretty much gotten all their story arcs in their verse. So, and all those arcs have been brought together into this one issue here, and it basically covers everything from sort of like all the events that have taken place in chronological order. So even though when they started out originally with Infiltration, it doesn't actually start with Infiltration. It actually starts with Megatron Origins, and from there it goes on to basically cover every single event in the verse in chronological order. However, that when I was reading it, there's sort of like some sort of errors, and it's like thinking, okay, what the hell's going on here? No, that's not right. I mean, when they mentioned about the human character introduced first, you know, like Verity, Hunter, and Jimmy, they missed out Jimmy Pink in this completely. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? You got this other character here, and you know, why isn't he mentioned in it? And also the other thing was, they made no mention of the machination empire. I'm thinking, what? So I'm still a little bit confused about it as to why. You know, then I started thinking about it. I thought, okay, perhaps it's, you know, thinking about all these errors, and I thought perhaps maybe it's not actually seen. They're not actually doing it from the sort of, you know, publisher's standpoint. Maybe they done what they did in their Transformers animated, the Allspark Almanac, and actually sort of, you know, sort of actually seen it as actual events and put into Legend, because they go on about Legend, and sort of like seeing sort of in terms of sort of seeing far in the future, you know. So obviously, you know, sometimes when history, you know, you kind of, it's a history of the IDW verse, but I mean at the same time though, it's actually maybe because it states in here that most records were lost and they become legendary, so during the Great War and whatever. So perhaps that's what happened. Maybe sort of like mentions of, like, you know, the machination empire and missing Jimmy Pink. Maybe they got, you know, sort of got lost in time. So that's my reasoning. I mean, there's sort of some sort of, you know, how sort of like how events can change, you know, sort of like Great War events and that, and seen through different eyes. So maybe like Machination Empire is, you know, they just completely ignored, might have been completely ignored. They just, you know, got lost in the folds of time and history. I mean, and again, it's like Jimmy Pink. I mean, and also they make no mention of Mr. Dante, who is the human face of the Machination Empire. I mean, there's quite some. I mean, I know this is supposed to be a definitive guide or whatever, but there's still stuff missing from it that they could have covered. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, the sort of real other thing that annoyed me was they sort of like they blame the whole thing with the headmasters, which obviously was Scorponok's idea. And yes, Scorponok does get a mention in this. He does get a mention in this in his idea for the headmasters, but they actually pinned the blame of the headmasters on Skywatch, who had nothing to do with it. And so I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? And then once again, for in terms of thinking like far off in the future, perhaps 100, 200, 300 years, and maybe sort of like again events, the exact nature of these events maybe got mixed up. And I mean, I'm not completely sort of saying that it is bad. I mean, it followed quite true to it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that they have remained true to, and that they sort of like cover the pit. Like for example, after the Megatron Orgins section, and they go sort of like side in the Great War where they shoot about Autobots and Decepticons, so the cybertronian is choosing their sides. I mean, there's mention of Optimus Prime, who we all know will become Optimus Prime later. I know that's all good, but I mean, there's sort of like some events like the whole Thunderwing story arc. It's completely been misconstrued. But I mean, once again, got me thinking. Personally, it's like this is sort of like compiled sort of like perhaps it's something that was done in the anyway, is sort of back and livable. And I mean, we all know what's wrong in Cybertron in the IDW verse. So yeah. Overall, it is pretty good. I mean, there's probably still going to be people going, oh, that's not right. But yeah, you have to think in terms of the fact that this could have actually sort of like, this guide is sort of like, sort of like in terms of if Cybertron becomes livable again, and has become livable again, and the war is over, and this has been put together to cover main of the big events that led to it. It's got the whole. I mean, it just basically covers everything, right from Megatron Origins up to the last issue of All Hail Megatron. I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool. So, it's still got to be looking, thinking, what the hell? But and the last thing, what I do like here is they have actually given a sort of like how to read the arcs that come out in chronological order, not in issue order, not in the data when they're released, but actual in chronological order. So obviously start with Megatron Origins, and then you got Spotlight, Blur, and then last one, and then it's sort of right down up to the Transformers ongoing, which is where we're now kicking in. So overall, what I think, it is pretty good. It is really good work. It's worth your money. I mean, it's got some flaws in it, some of which are major, but overall, it's worth picking up, worth reading, getting an idea of the actual events and sort of where they're at the moment in the IDW verse. So I am Andy, aka Witchfire65. This is IDW's The Transformers Continuum, and we are outies.